Intro. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Overwatch Collective Podcast, Season 9, Episode 20. I'm here on Zoom. I'm all bundled up because out in Louisiana, it is absolutely freezing. It was like 37 degrees at work last night. So I'm rocking the beanie and trying to stay as warm as possible while we do this one. But super excited, Kelley, to have you on. Brain Performance Technologies is a proud sponsor of the Overwatch Collective Podcast. Just locked down this podcast sponsorship last month, and we're trying to get the word out to our military and first responder community. So what better way than to hop on a podcast? So Kelley, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. How we doing?
Thank you for having me. I am doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Of course. Happy to have you here. Really quick, I'm going to mention one of our other like collab sponsors that we do, Rustin Iron Clothing Company out in California. He's an active duty firefighter.
Oh,
So he can also help push this message. Rustin Iron Clothing Company, they donate a big percentage of their proceeds to us to continue to do the podcast, to continue to get the word out there to normalize mental health, the resources for our community, like what we're going to talk about. And then also, obviously, fun therapy and other resources for the community.
excellent.
Yeah. Once again, excited to have you on. Can you give us a quick little intro of yourself? Um, let's start off just with you, and then we'll get into brain performance technology. So, like, where are you from? What got you into this? And then if you could touch on your son at the end of it, and then we'll transition into BBT.
Sure. So my name is Kelley Jensen. I live in the Bay Area, San Jose, California. Um, I have two children, one of whom is a 26-year-old autistic young man. He's pretty severely autistic, and over the years we have done all of the interventions, all of the on-label, off-label things that parents try. And he was about 22, and he was going through, a lot of life changes, aging out of the school system, and he was very stressed. And his autistic rigidity, had kicked up to a point where it was full-blown obsessive compulsive disorder, and he was developing a hoarding problem. And I was desperate to help him because it was really impeding his function. And so I said, forget autism. If he had OCD only, what would he be entitled to? What therapies are available other than, behavioral therapies or talk therapies, which he obviously couldn't do? What else is available? Is there anything else? Is there any special medication? What can I do? And I found out that TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, is a brain treatment that is on label, covered by insurance for OCD. And then I Googled, well, can autistic people do TMS? And yes, they can. And what clinics work with autistic people, because I wanted a clinic that understood autism. And I found a clinic, and I took him to this clinic that was about an hour from where we live, and he had a beautiful result. It was incredible. It really ticked down the hoarding. It stopped the hoarding, and it really ticked down the OCD. And I was all in after that. And I asked the doctor how I could be involved. And 2 years later, here I am.
Yeah, you got pretty involved. Now you're working there. And
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. Right. Well, the doctor had said to my husband and I, he had said, I'm really good at being a doctor, and I'm really passionate about TMS. And he had a daughter that had struggled with thoughts of suicide ideation, and he was desperate to help her, and TMS really helped her. And so that's why he was doing it. He was passionate. And he said, I want to get the word out, and I don't know anything about marketing. I don't know anything about business administration. I hate dealing with payroll. I just want to be a doctor. Maybe there's a way we can partner. And that's what came to be. So, my husband and I do all of the administration and all the marketing, and here I am talking about TMS. And one of the things he was passionate about was military community and first responders, and he didn't know how to reach out to the community. So
Gotcha.
we have, in the last 2 years, made quite a bit of inroads with you guys.
Yeah, very nice. And I know, like, when we first got connected, me, like, as an active service member and police officer, this is the first time I've heard about all this. Which
Yeah.
I think honestly is crazy. And I'm not saying like I sit here and know everything, but having done this podcast since 2021, we've been learning all about different modalities, different treatments, therapy, all these things, right? You can list them off. And then
Yeah.
until I spoke with you, this is the first time I've heard about TMS, brain performance technologies, all this stuff. And I'm like, this is incredible. This needs to get out there, you know?
Why haven't I heard of this? That's what I get every day. Why haven't I heard of this? And, you know, I think because doctors are in the clinics and their outreach is, you know, they're not really good at outreach. TMS was approved as a treatment for depression in 2008. So really, in the rollout, you know, the way a traditional therapy, the way it's rolled out, it is a little bit slower. And so they are, you know, it's available at a VA clinic. It is available through TRICARE. We are TRICARE providers in our clinics. And it is a very effective treatment. It's brain care. So, you know, a lot of people who have served, a lot of first responders, you know, they've had concussions and there's brain injury that associated with that. And the best mental health treatments start with a healthy brain. So a treatment of TMS sets off all of the goals of new habits that are, you know, so effective in therapy. So like I said, we treat a lot of people who have served that have TRICARE as their insurance, and we get a lot of great results.
Perfect. Yeah. And so the 3 different locations, right? San Jose, Las Vegas, and Sacramento.
Sacramento. Mm-hmm.
So 3 different locations where they'll have to travel out to. Really quick, for those listening, like how long has this been around for?
Yeah.
And like talk a little bit about that.
So basically, transcranial magnetic stimulation is electric therapy delivered through a magnet, or it uses a magnetic pulse. It uses electricity to create a magnetic pulse, and you put it on your forehead. There's different TMS protocols, but all of them put a magnet here and send a magnetic pulse through your brain. It goes about an inch or two into the brain, and the point of it, the goal of it, is to stimulate brainwave patterns and to resync brainwave patterns that turn off, that get out of sync with, you know, lack of sleep, brain injury, depression, chemical imbalances, substance use. So that is really the gist of TMS. It goes either here or here, and it's 30 pulses, 30 times in general. Again, there's different protocols, there's different treatment protocols, but it was developed in the 80s, actually, believe it or not. The machines were developed in the 80s in parts of Europe and Scandinavia, and approved in 2008 for depression. And steadily, I have a paper, it's called Start Me Up. It's all about TMS and all about the different protocols, and you are going to tell people how they can contact us. I'm happy to send them the history of TMS and how they can find it. But so it was approved for depression in 2008, and slowly and steadily every single mental health condition needs to go through an approval process. So depression, OCD, smoking cessation. I mean, it's very effective for smoking cessation, and migraines, sometimes anxiety. That one is a little bit trickier, but those are the general things it's approved by insurance for. As a practical matter, people use it off-label for autism. Again, for, you know, my son, he used it off-label for autism with great results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the things that you mentioned there, like the PTSD, the depression, the TBI, that you pretty much explained the military and first responder community right there, you know. And a lot of the stuff, and I think we talked about this before we were recording. A lot of the things we realize in our community, number one, maybe it's like a lack of awareness and understanding, but maybe it's a lack of wanting to accept it. The depression side of things, the PTSD, all that. And that's why I'm excited to work with you guys to get this on every single podcast that I do in the intro, and to post it all over social media to try to help people and get this out to them. So what I do want to go through is I want to go through all the different the protocols. So I want to go through MERT, I want to go through TMS, I want to go through SAINT, and the acronym, what they stand for, what they do, just so each one is broken down, and then I can ask you questions on each one if you're good with that.
I'm super good with it. Now, I'm going to give you the layman's answer. I encourage everyone that is interested in this to Come to a clinic. It doesn't even have to be my clinic. Go to any clinic that offers TMS and talk to the doctor about the neuroscience behind it. But I will give you the layman terminology. How's that?
Perfect. Yes. And our community sometimes is not like the brightest tools in the shed. So,
Oh, that's not true.
sometimes. So we'll keep it, obviously we'll break it down and everything. And then I'll go through and kind of ask questions thinking if I was the listener, to try to get more info. So I'll let you pick 1 out of 3, wherever you want to start. And then we'll kind of just go from there.
Well, let's start with the original. The OG is RTMS, repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it's just abbreviated to TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it is a magnet that goes on your forehead at 10 hertz. It's very simple. So there's no other diagnostics done for it. You go into a clinic, you qualify for treatment based on your depression source. There are some contraindications. It's a magnet, so you can't do TMS if you have metal in your body, or if you have a pacemaker, if you have an active seizure disorder that's not well managed. So there is some contraindications to be aware of, but your doctor, of course, would go over all that with you. It would be part of your, first appointment. So you would go into a clinic, they would put a magnet here, the speed of 10 hertz, 30 pulses, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. That is the basic gist of it. And each session takes about 20 minutes. So you would go into a clinic for about 20 minutes as a practical matter. Maybe you take 30 minutes, and you would do that 5 days a week for 6 weeks. So it's a bit of a commitment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing that specifically our military and first responder community are going to listen to, because this was my reaction.
Yeah.
Realizing like, oh, this is a long time. This is a huge commitment. But, and obviously we'll talk about this, the results are life-changing.
Well, I think the biggest thing people notice right away is that they sleep.
Mm-hmm.
No one is more of a proponent of therapy than I am. But if you're not sleeping, if you have a migraine, if, all of these other things are preventing you from being able to think clearly, then the progress of your therapy is going to be slow, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're not going to go to see your therapist, and you're not going to talk about the things that you need to talk about to set you on a path of better habits and, change. So there's 3 ways you can help yourself when you have a mental health challenge. It is medication, brain care, and it is therapy. And frankly, you should do it all. You should do all of those things, and not enough people know about brain care. And I personally think start with the brain care, and then see how the other two options that you have. A lot of people that do TMS need they probably still need some medication, but a lot less. When I did it for my son, he was like up to 6 pills a day, or 6 different classes of pills that he was taking for different things, and he's down to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thrilled with that. And of course, he's always going to need, 1 or 2, medications, but that's okay, right? That it is working. The medication that he takes, less of it, and it works better.
Yep. And that's one of the things too with our community, right? Nobody wants to get put on meds. Nobody even really wants to go to therapy. It's getting better, obviously. Like we have the great program to get you connected to therapy. But this is where this whole piece is missing, right? Like I feel like everybody's like, I'm going to go to therapy. They're going to put me on meds. I'm going to do medication in conjunction with therapy, which yes, that works and that helps. But we're totally missing this brain piece.
Right. 100%. And particularly if you have had a lot of training, that has been a lot of blasts, the sound of the blast, I think it's a concussion a day or something like that. They tell me, you got to get that looked at. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's TMS, and TMS is a great option. TMS is the one that that enjoys the most insurance coverage, the widest insurance coverage, because it's been around the longest, since 2008. It is available at VAs or through VA community network providers. So our clinic is only authorized to accept TRICARE. We have had a couple of people that have come from the VA that have advocated that for themselves and gotten approval to do treatment in one of our clinics. And I'm a layperson, so I don't know how the VA works, but
Mm-hmm.
go to your local VA and ask for it.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you could definitely call if you don't want to go in person, or if it's quite a bit of a drive to your closest VA. You can definitely call. And I'm kind of curious too, is the because there's different levels of the TRICARE, right? Like I'm on
Yeah.
TRICARE Reserve Select because I'm in the United States Coast Guard Reserve. If you're an
Right.
active duty service member, you're on TRICARE Prime.
Right.
And then like if you deploy, you're on something different. There's all these
Right.
different categories and everything, but I'm sure they cover all of them. But that's something that maybe we can follow up on. And then I think it would be beneficial. And I know Sean's in the background somewhere there, is to I'm going to jot this down, is a video that we can put on our social media and our YouTube about the different TRICARE insurances, like the Reserve, the Prime, all that
Sure, yeah.
fun.
Yeah, for in our clinic we take TRICARE Prime and TRICARE Select.
Yeah, okay.
And I know that in our Las Vegas location, some of our, even the active duty, they come to our clinic because wherever the VA that has the TMS machine in Vegas is, it's our clinic is a more convenient location for them. So that's all I know about the VAs, but ask about it. Advocate for yourself and ask, you know. So that's regular TMS. And then there are, as TMS has evolved, protocols have evolved. The way they use the machines have evolved, and they have paired them with different diagnostics. So MERT, magnetic resonance therapy, is another one of the treatment protocols that is common. That's the one that I did for my son. It is MERT has quite a solid following in the autistic community. And it pairs the TMS with EEG, electroencephalogram diagnostics. So before you start treatment, they take a 10-minute reading of your brain waves with, an EEG, they call it. You put this cap on, and it conducts electricity, and you sit there for 10 minutes, and they can tell how fast or how slow your brain's going, and where your brain waves are. And from that information, they use it to set the magnet at a different speed or put it in a different place in the back of the head. So like for autistic people, 10 hertz is pretty overstimulating. So a lot of times they go much, much slower. They start the treatment at a much slower hertz, and they get quite a jolt, right? Even with that, because some people are very, very sensitive to brain stimulation, autistic people in particular. With autistic people, they're looking for, MERT is always looking to increase alpha waves. Alpha waves are what we run on. It is the autistic people have a pattern of not producing enough alpha waves. So the goal of their treatment is to get more alpha.
And how long is that the same thing 5 times?
Same thing. It's 5 days a week. It is, but there's 4 EEGs. So they will start with an EEG. They'll determine where they're going to put the magnet and how fast the magnet's going to go. And then they'll do this session, 10 sessions. And then at the 10th session, they'll do another EEG, see how much improvement they've gotten, and then adjust the speed and adjust the magnet placement accordingly, and then do 10 more sessions. And then at the 20th session, they'll do another EEG and again, reset the treatment protocol. And then on the 30th session, they'll do a final EEG. And this is true with TMS or with MERT, with all of the protocols, the biggest gains happen after treatment's over because, the brainwave has been reset. It's kind of like a muscle has been flexed, right? You've gained some muscle mass. If you start lifting weights every day, you've gained some muscle mass, right? So that carries, particularly the young kids, it carries them further, and they get incredible gains after treatment has stopped.
It's almost like, do all the work. Now it's a fresh start. You're ready to go. Now work on. Now
there are certain things that happen immediately. Autistic people tend to get very, very hyper in the first days of treatment. The first 10 treatments, they respond very much by getting hyper. Parents tell us they're hyper, but they're in a good mood. So it has an immediate effect on their mood, which is great. But sometimes the hyperactivity is. You see some kids that are bad, and then the doctor will to tick down the machine even a little bit more if it's unbearable. But a lot of our vets and military community, they start noticing that they're sleeping right away. they may not notice anything else. When they treat they do notice that the sleep gets better almost immediately. The other thing that's important to note is some people, throughout the course of the 30 days, TRICARE actually pays for 36 days, believe it or not. So that's an incredibly rich benefit that I encourage everybody to look into for themselves. Sometimes there's a little dip because the brain is coming online. So you're starting to, initially your mood really, really improves. And then maybe you're starting to, you have a little bit dip in the middle of treatment. And then by the end of treatment, you feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like getting sore. If you were working out and you got sore, right? And so maybe one day you were really, really sore. It's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely, it's a workout of the brain.
100%.
What it
And
is.
the other treatment protocol that we offer in our clinic is called SAINT. It stands for Stanford Accelerated Intelligent Neuromodulation Therapy, and it was developed by Stanford. It was patented by Stanford University, and they license it through a private company that we purchased the software from. And it is also uses diagnostics, but it uses a functional fMRI to figure out where the magnet goes as well. And it is accelerated. So it is 50 treatments in 5 days. So the top of the hour every day, or top of the hour for 10 hours straight, 5 days a week. And it is incredibly effective for thoughts of suicide ideation. So people who are in the throes of a mental health crisis, it is designed to be kind of an emergency. It doesn't enjoy as much insurance coverage yet, but that is rapidly changing. The team that has brought it to market is incredibly passionate about what they do. It's incredibly effective. So it's a great option for people who can't take 6 weeks to do treatment. They can take a week off work, right? And so that's SAINT. SAINT is kind of TMS on steroids.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think SAINT, in my opinion, is the one out of the three that we would see the military and first responder community go for right away. Because like you mentioned, it's on steroids, it's a big hit, and it only requires a week. And I know we've talked about this before. It's difficult for our community to get the time off. Especially if you're active duty. Like if you're active duty, you're accruing 2.5 days of leave per month.
Right.
And then you have to pass up your chain of command to get to one of these locations to do the treatment.
Yeah.
So I think SAINT would be the priority, the big one for the military community.
I agree, and we are working very hard to get TRICARE to cover it, and it's a process. So my suggestion to all of you who have TRICARE that think that this is the treatment protocol, I have two suggestions for everybody that thinks that this is the treatment protocol for them. Start with what's covered, and we can help you try to get SAINT covered, but if not, we can do what is covered for now. You will get relief, and then the thing about TMS is it's drug-free, it's non-invasive. You can do it once a year. And we have had people that come in once a year and they don't take any medication. They prefer to do this once a year. It's kind of like going to the dentist for them. They do it once a year and they love it. And sometimes if you do it once a year, you don't need to do the full 6 weeks because it's a touch. They call it a kind of a touch-up, a maintenance, and that can be just as effective. So my suggestion is, if you think SAINT is right for you, follow it. Call us. We'll do all we can to help you. If not, we'll do what is covered by your plan, and that's where you should start. The other thing I want to say about it, and you and I are going to work this year. We have a goal. You raise money for therapy, and you have said, well, I'll certainly set up a fund for SAINT if you can help me raise money, and I intend to do that. Let's do that together. Let's figure out how we can have a fund for those that are struggling, that SAINT is their best option. Particularly for MERT. MERT is undergoing clinical trials to be the protocol that is approved for PTSD. And I know that in Ohio, in Arizona, and I want to say maybe down in San Diego, there have been a couple of congressmen that have set aside a grant for their folks to do EEG guided TMS.
Okay.
Maybe we can knock on the door of some of the powers that be and ask them to help us set up a fund for this stuff.
I'm definitely good at knocking on doors and cold
Yeah.
calling or emailing people and being like, this is what we do. This is why we need your money. Please send it.
Yeah.
Give us
Well,
the
and
grant.
listen, for what the population does for the communities that they serve, the communities should give back.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And really quick, so can you also touch on if we have a service member or first responder out there that wants to go through this, wants to get the treatment, can he or she choose any location? Or is it dependent on where they live, the proximity, or what kind of treatment they want?
no, it's dependent on their plan. So they can come and see any of our clinics. Again, we have people that travel from all over the country to do TMS and MERT and out for MERT, particularly MERT for autism. We have people traveling from great distances for it, and they come and they take time off, and particularly families that are doing it for their young children. They'll come and they'll do it in the summer, and make it their summer vacation. So no, you can do it at any clinic, and there's not as many SAINT clinics yet because it's so new, but there are a few around the country. There's some at teaching hospitals, such as Stanford, and the MERT clinics. There's like about 75 MERT clinics all over the world that you could visit, and then TMS, just standard TMS clinics. There's a lot in the country. So do what you can afford and do what you have access to and do what you can stick with. That is always the best advice, right?
Yeah, and then a few questions that come up that if I were listening to this, I would want to ask. So how much would it cost if insurance doesn't cover it? So say there's a first responder or service member out there listening to this now, and they call and they're like, oh yeah, we'll cover 25% of it, or we'll cover X amount, or you have to pay the full cost and then we'll reimburse you, which probably what would happen.
Sure.
What would they be looking at?
The cost of SAINT generally runs somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000. The cost of MERT generally runs somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000, and TMS is in the same category as MERT. But the TMS might be 10 to 12. It doesn't have the EEG, doesn't have the diagnostics. There's not as much, diagnostic work for the doctors to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, and I think that's an important point, is because like for me at my police department, I don't, like, say I wasn't in the military, I don't know if my insurance would even cover a portion of that. Obviously, that's what, if you're listening to this and you want to get these resources, that's something that you would have to reach out to your insurance company to do. But also,
yes, so TMS is covered by all insurance carriers for depression, OCD, smoking cessation, and migraines. Now, the authorization and yes, some of the requirements they have for approval are different depending on the carriers. But if you struggle with depression, you're entitled to it. So you might have to advocate for yourself or ask your doctor to advocate for you, but ask about it because it's out there. And again, do what your plan covers first. And if you like it and if you feel some benefit from it, then yes, you can look at other avenues for how to pay for it. Or the next round when you do it the next year.
I think that'll be one of the big things, right? Like if we can tap into some of these grants, because not only are they just paying for the actual treatment, but they have to pay for the travel, they have to pay for the hotel, food, and all that stuff too. So it would be absolutely phenomenal if we were able to raise a bunch of money, have a bank here, right? Like an iCloud account, and then you have somebody that reaches out that's like, hey, my insurance won't cover all of it, or they'll cover it, but I can't. Because a lot of the thing that we're seeing with therapy is, and some of it is financial, like taking care of your own finances and being smart and not buying a new truck or a boat or a firearm. It's actually putting your money towards good therapy with good therapists, but it is expensive. So I think if we can do that, and then shoot, if we were able to allot X amount of money to be able to send a few people a year to go get this and cover their travel and per diem, like, to me, that would be phenomenal.
Well, I'm in for however, maybe somebody's listening to this has a connection, can forward this to a person that does do grants for the Overwatch organizations that like the Overwatch Collective. And I mean, I'm in. I'll talk to anybody all day long
Yeah, me
about
too.
why you should be having this, right? We were talking earlier before we started recording. Again, I have an autistic child or a grown man. He's 6'4", he's 230 pounds, and he's a big
Being a
old,
child.
yeah, I know, he's a big dude. And over the years, just the joy that anytime he sees a fire truck and he sees a fireman or anybody in uniform, I mean, he's just so excited. And every single first responder that we have ever come across in our communities have stopped what they were doing and given him a high five, given him a fist bump, and it's just made a difference. And I don't think that enough people know that for many autistic families, people who are raising an autistic child, a lot of times their only line of defense in a crisis, elopement, or a child that hurts himself is first responders. I mean, it's kind of an untold story, right? How much you guys do to help our community.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. Um, yeah, I have so many ideas, and I know we're working on a bunch of stuff, and we're new in this partnership here, and obviously this is the first podcast that we're going to be doing, but we're also going to be doing more and getting Doc on with you
Definitely.
and all these things. So if you're listening to this, we definitely have more coming, which I'm looking forward to. Another question just popped into my mind, Kelley, is um, when people are getting this treatment, do they have to be free from alcohol? Do they have to change up their nutrition a little bit? Um, can they
Great question.
continue working out? Do they have to pause working out? What does it look like?
Sure. Great question. Well, Saint is obviously very exhausting. So you probably are not going to feel like working out. Um, as the regular TMS, absolutely. A lot of times people feel great and have a lot of energy to go work out. In terms of substances, generally they don't want you to do anything drastic. They don't want you to, just randomly stop a benzo or to, if you take medication for mental health, they don't want you to stop that. Even alcohol, sometimes they don't want you to do, if alcohol use disorder is an issue, that's something that you have to talk to the doctor about, because they might have you have a very strict schedule for the time you're doing treatment. Illicit drugs, you have to be clean. You can't be using while you're doing treatment, because it affects the ability of the treatment to work. It is a very effective tool for managing addiction once you're clean. And there are a handful of residential treatment centers that do TMS within the, because the greatest time to do it is when you're in rehab, right? And you're clean. And so that is, it's fastly becoming an important tool for residential treatment centers. But yeah, you got to be clean.
Yep.
And alcohol withdrawal, it can be an issue. So that's something that you definitely need to talk to the doctor about.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think one of the big things and like the results for this community is obviously the assistance with depression, like we mentioned, or they may not even realize that they're in a depressed state.
Right.
But also it's like the improved sleep right away, and like we talk about how important sleep is, and if you're able to sleep 8 hours and get good sleep, and you're not having nightmares and it's difficult with the community, right? Like you're waking up early to go PT at 0500 if you're in your active duty, or if you're working swing shift, you're getting off at 2 a.m. and then you're having to wake up at 7 a.m. It's like it's so
Yeah.
difficult. Like our community is definitely special in that aspect where you're not working a normal like 8 to 5 most of the time. So
Right.
improved sleep is like step number one. Like let's get you some good sleep.
Right. Absolutely. In our clinic, even those that are doing straight TMS, we usually do the EEG, just because you guys have been through so much. We want to know what's going on. So we usually, the EEG, we usually do at least, maybe not 4 the way we do with MERT, but we'll at least do 1 before treatment starts. And TRICARE will usually cover 1 as a diagnostic.
Got it. Sweet. Let's see. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of what else. The
Again, we have this paper, learn everything you want to know about TMS, and just, you're going to put it up, how to get it, and we will send it to you. And, we're here to answer questions, and we're here to spread the word. We want everybody to. Medication is one tool. Therapy is one tool. Brain care is another tool, an important tool. So do all three. Do it all.
Yeah, and like we talk about, right, and I can continue to say this, but I'm so excited about it, is the more tools that we have for the community and the more information, awareness, and then if we can provide the funding for it,
I'm in.
then we can hit a service member or a first responder with therapy, with brain work, with different types of medication, in addition to fitness and nutrition and all that, and be like, here's what we can do to help you. Like,
Right.
Here's a list of the resources. Here's what we can do. And then let's get the help,
And the last thing I'll tell you about it, and you probably can understand this, is people really like it. They find it is fascinating, of course, but just coming in and the experience, it doesn't hurt your head. It might feel a little bit like a rubber band, but not much. Most people find it kind of soothing and a little bit more that 15-20 minutes a day of relaxation. You'd swear that the autistic kids, that they love it, that they grab it and put it on their head. You'd swear that maybe the sensory thing. But just everything about it is something that appeals to people that they enjoy. And like I said, many people do it once a year, just like going to the dentist, and they found it's a tool that really works for them.
Yeah, it's definitely, and we've heard it all the time with therapy and everything too, right? It's like one of those things where it's like in a car, every once in a while, you got to go get your oil changed, you got to get your motor checked and all that stuff. It's the same way with our brain.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely is. And I'm thrilled that it came to me. I'm thrilled that what it brought to my family, and I'm all in for spreading the word. And however, like I said, I am not shy about calling anybody to ask for a donation, to ask for a grant. I think that we have a compelling story, and I'm excited to work with you to try to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're definitely on the same page, because I will talk to anybody, call anybody, email anybody, and give them a pitch in 90 seconds, a minute, 30 seconds, whatever the case may be. So where can people, usually I do this in the beginning of every podcast, but it's nice to have you on, obviously, so you can give all this. Where can people find you to learn more and to reach out to you?
Okay, so you can just email us at social@1bpt.com. You can go to our website, Brain Performance Technologies. You can find us on any social media platform. Just reach out. Yeah, we have 3 locations again: Las Vegas, San Jose, and Sacramento. Sacramento is very close to the Air Force Base there. Las Vegas is very close to I think it's the Air Force Base there, right?
Yeah, it's McNeil's, I think.
No, it's the other. Is it Travis?
Travis is Sacramento, Northern California.
Okay, no, then yeah, that's Sacramento.
McNeil's, yeah. Because I always see all the videos of all the
Nellis.
There you go. Yes, I always see all the videos of the fighter jets taking off with like the strip in the background, and I'm like, God, I just want to go sit there and watch all the jets take off.
Yeah. Well, so we are really involved in the military community there, and the clinic is very passionate in Las Vegas. So you can find us in Las Vegas. You can find us in San Jose. You can find us in Sacramento. Any social media account. In addition to my work at Brain Performance Technologies, I also have a podcast. It's called The Refrigerator Moms, and it's all about, I do it with a friend, and it's all about autism and neurodivergence and ideas for parents that are weeding through 2 bad choices, which is what autism sometimes feels like, right?
All right, sweet. I didn't know you had your own podcast too. I didn't know if you were...
Yeah, we're called The Refrigerator Moms. I'm actually in our studio right now. Oh, and The Refrigerator Moms is a throwback term to when autism was first starting to be diagnosed. It was thought to be mother's fault, that you were responsible for your child's autism because you were a cold mother. The term was you were a refrigerator mom, and that was obviously bonk. But we think we should turn that negative connotation to a positive one, because we're fierce advocates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And that probably leads perfectly into my last question for you, which is we ask every guest on our podcast. So our motto at the Overwatch Collective is one more is one less. So it comes from an Army combat veteran who lost more friends to suicide upon return stateside than actually overseas. So what we do is we always ask our guests at the end of every episode what one more is one less means to them. So I feel like that's a perfect transition. But I would love to hear what one more is one less means to you.
One more person that I tell about TMS is one less person that says to me, how come I haven't heard of this?
There you go.
That's what it means to me, right? I'm on a mission. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. Sweet. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, if you're listening to this, we are going to be getting more content out there.
Yes.
Sean is working behind the scenes with all the social
Yes.
media stuff.
Yes.
And then we'll keep y'all posted. Kelley and I are going to do another podcast coming up with Doc and trying to schedule that. And then
that's right.
All this.
And maybe even one specifically about SAINT. Well, maybe if we want to touch on SAINT.
Yeah.
And anything anybody's interested in or curious about, if you have any questions, just reach out to any of us at Brain Performance Technologies. We are here to answer questions and tell the world about TMS.
Perfect. Sweet. That wraps it up.
Thanks again, Greg.
Of course. No, of course. Happy to help and happy to get this out there, honestly, because I'm still learning all this too, obviously, like what we talked about. And this is the whole goal of the podcast, in conjunction with the nonprofit, obviously. But it's to talk about resources like this, to have people come on and talk about their challenging times in life, whether it was trauma or etc., to share the stories. But all these resources and everything that we can do to help, like, if this gets out to one person, they learn about TMS and brain performance technologies, and then in a conversation that they have with somebody, they can pass it on to them. Like, it's never ending, so
100%.
Sorry for going on and on. I geek out about
that. That's all right. That's true. It's truth. You're speaking truth. All right, Greg, take care. And thanks again.
Of course, everybody. Thanks for listening. What's up?
When will we see? When can I see this, or you just let me know?
Yeah. I'll let you know. But everybody, if you're listening to this now, let's see. This drops Friday, December 12th, so it'll be up on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, and our app.
Awesome. All right,
everybody. Hope you all enjoyed, and then reach out if you have any questions, and then stay in touch with our social media for updates for the next podcast. Thank you.